Bhadram karne vishrunuyama devaha Bhadram pashye makshabhirya chatraha Sthireirangeyistushtuvarum sastanubhi Vyashema devahitanyadayuhu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, O gods, may we hear with our ears what is auspicious. O ye other ones, may we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we sing praises to ye and enjoy with strong limbs and body the life allotted to us by the gods. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Yatagne Darhika Shakti Ramakrishna Stitahiya Sarva Vidya Swarupam Tam Sharadam Pranamamyaham. Om. Salutation to Sri Sarada Devi, who, like the burning power of fire, abides inseparably in Sri Ramakrishna, who is of the nature of the essence of all wisdom. To her, to that Sarada Devi, I offer my salutations. The secret of compassion is the secret of God. God is compassion. He does not merely feel sorry for us. He enters into our condition, becomes one of us, suffers with us, and in us. The man of compassion is the man who has discovered his true self in God. He no longer sees others as strangers or enemies, but as fellow manifestations of the divine mercy. The whole idea of compassion is therefore based on the keen awareness of the interdependence of all these living beings, which are all part of one another and all involved in one another. The whole idea of compassion is therefore based on the keen awareness of the interdependence of all these living beings, which are all part of one another and all involved in one another. Thomas Merton. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to Ramakrishna Monastery. And our topic today is the compassionate God is the compassionate mother. I was wondering, what is the audience? And I just remember most of it is in Hollywood, because there is a puja going on to Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi. And I thought, of course, we have to honor Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi on her birthday that happened on the 11th. And there is always an opportunity to honor her, honestly. But I also realized that I never gave a talk on Holy Mother. I think this is my first time honoring Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi. I did give a talk on the Divine Mother or Mother, but not specifically on Sri Sarada Devi. So when I thought of Holy Mother, immediately to me is like compassion. So I had to speak about this manifestation of God as compassion. That is one of the highest expressions of the one who has realized the self, or really know who or she is. Once you get there, you assume compassion. The compassion of God is not merely an attribute of the divine. It is the very essence of God's being, revealed most fully in the awakened human heart. The compassion of God is not merely an attribute of the divine, it is the very essence of God's being, revealed most fully in the awakened human heart. One of the characteristics of a fully awakened heart, an enlightened being, is the feeling for others expressed as compassion. This is exactly what we see in the person of Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi. Sri Sarada Devi was a jnani, a knower, but not just any knower, of the highest order. She rarely spoke in philosophical terms, yet her every gesture was a living commentary on the Upanishads, the last word of the scriptures. Her life demonstrates that compassion is not something a wise person does. It is how a wise person is. But do you all know who Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi is? Are you familiar with her? Very good. Thank you for saying no, because sometimes, we take it for granted that all our audience, friends, or devotees, they know who Holy Mother is. Well, for all those who do not know, and for all those who do know, let us dive deep into her personality. Sri Sarada Devi, 1853-1920, was the spiritual consort of the 19th century Indian saint, Sri Ramakrishna. When explaining who Sri Sarada Devi was, we need to understand that for millions of devotees, and of the Ramakrishna tradition most specifically, she was not just a saintly woman, but the Divine Mother incarnate, he will explain. To her devotees, she was not just a saintly woman, but a Divine Mother incarnate. To her devotees, she was not merely a human being, but the living embodiment of the Divine Mother, the compassionate, nurturing aspect of God. In the Ramakrishna tradition, I need you to understand what this is. The Ramakrishna tradition is mostly started with Swami Dhyanayogananda after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna. As I mentioned before, Sri Ramakrishna was an avaduta, a self-realized soul who knew nothing but God in his whole life. And he inspired his main disciple, I can say, although he did not really make disciples. But his inner circle, Swami Dhyanayogananda, to start this monastic organization, the Ramakrishna Mahan Mission, the Ramakrishna Order of Monks. And we are monks of this ancient order of monks. We belong to the oldest order of monks in the world. But we entertain Sri Ramakrishna as our center of our activity, meaning we honor our teachers, in this particular case, Sri Ramakrishna. And we are just nothing but monks. We don't preach him per se. What we preach are his teachings, which are universal and non-sectarian. And so many people who come to us, who come and participate in these lectures, they want to know who he is, and they start reading our books. And it looks like you guys like him, because many people keep coming, and you learn and understand more he was, and his inner circle. Mostly this is monastic disciples. You can see them in that big picture or painting. These are called the first generation of monks. For you to have an idea, I am the fourth generation. I belong to the fourth generation of monks. And so when I talk about this Ramakrishna tradition, we mean all the people who actually sympathize with Sri Ramakrishna or our teachers. And one of our teachers is also his divine consort, who was also his wife, Sri Sarada Devi. So in the Ramakrishna tradition, Sri Sarada Devi is understood as the incarnation of the Adya Shakti, the primordial divine energy. I know, sounds really big, but let me explain. Who appeared on earth to support Sri Ramakrishna's mission and to demonstrate that the highest realization expresses as boundless compassion and self-giving. I think it was in my training center that took place in India back in 2005 when I went there for 2 years in the beginning, and I heard that Holy Mother, Sri Sarada Devi, was the perfect, practical example of Advaita Vedanta. I was blown away. I was like, Holy Mother? And then of course, I thought, of course she is. Of course she's the practical example of Advaita Vedanta. Sri Ramakrishna recognized her as the incarnation of the Divine Mother, the primordial divine energy, the dynamic, compassionate power of Brahman. You know, we have this biased idea that an enlightened being is simply sitting in meditation posture day and night. That was not the case of Holy Mother. In the Hindu thought, Daya or Karuna, compassion, is not an attribute of God, but His divine nature. So the Vishnu Sahasranama, which is a Sanskrit hymn, containing at least 1,000 names of Vishnu, calls God Daya Nidhi, treasure of compassion. The Devi Mahatmya, which is the glorification of the goddess, in 700 verses, extols the mother as Karunar Narnava, ocean of mercy. Sri Ramakrishna says, he who is attributeless also has attributes. He who is Brahman is also Shakti. When thought as inactive, he is called Brahman. And when thought as the creator, preserver, and destroyer, he is called the primordial energy or mother. Is it clear? So, what we call God is actually she. Well, the idea of God is the creator, the one that, the preserver, eventually the destroyer, because everything that is subject to life, you know very well, subject to death. But yes, it's a she. Brahman and Shakti are identical. If you accept the one, you must accept the other. It is like fire and its power to burn. If you see the fire, you must recognize its power to burn also. You cannot think of fire without its power to burn, nor can you think of the power to burn without fire. You cannot conceive the sun's rays without the sun, nor can you conceive the sun without its rays. You cannot think of the milk without the whiteness, and again, you cannot think of the whiteness without the milk. Thus, one cannot think of Brahman without Shakti, or Shakti without Brahman. One cannot think of the Absolute without the relative, or of the relative without the Absolute. Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Sarada Devi was his wife. You know, they were married very young. Sarada Devi was only 8 years old when her parents married her to Sri Ramakrishna. I know these traditions are still in practice, but hopefully not that extreme. As a teenager, he was already immersed, Sri Ramakrishna was already immersed in the thought of God day and night, and could not help his spiritual raptures or ecstasies. So his parents thought, if we marry him, his mind will come down. Well, it didn't work out very well. It didn't work out very well. Their marriage, though, was never consummated. Because when Sarada Devi grew up as a teenager, she moved with her husband, but he was already one foot here and one foot with God all the time. If you know Sri Ramakrishna, if you read him, you would understand what I mean. So he asked her, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "I want to live with you, I want to serve you." Very smart. So, as I was saying, Sri Sarada Devi was the living embodiment of Shakti. Sri Ramakrishna often said, "She's not an ordinary woman, she's the mother of the universe." It is true that Sri Ramakrishna looked upon all women as the manifestation of the Divine Mother, but I guess in this particular case, Sri Sarada Devi was a little luckier, because she had the opportunity to live with him and serve him. Also, we have to remember that Sri Ramakrishna performed a unique, profound ritual called Sodashi Puja on Sri Sarada Devi in 1872, worshipping her as the living Divine Mother, making her as a manifestation of the universe's motherhood. A transformative event where she attained deep spiritual states, and this is the most important thing. He surrendered all his spiritual fruits to her as the embodiment of God. I think that did it. I think that turned Holy Mother into what she became, Holy Mother, the Holy Mother. Therefore, he said, she's not an ordinary woman, she's the mother of the universe. For Sri Sarada Devi, this was not a title, but a lived reality. That's why she's revered as the Holy Mother. Her extraordinary degree of compassion, humility, and maternal love was unsurpassed. She did not believe in oneness. She could see it. She had developed the eye. Her love was universal, viewing all beings as her spiritual children, embodying the divine motherhood of God. This direct perception of unity, in Sanskrit we all know this very famous statement, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is Brahman, to serve the divine. This direct perception of unity was to just simply serve the divine. Her compassion arose not from pity, but from identity. She taught through her silent presence, selfless service, and unconditional love. While Sri Ramakrishna, it is known that he revealed the non-dual truth as he experienced it, and the harmony of all religions, Sri Sarada Devi embodied the heart of that truth. In practice, the mother who nurtures, forgives, and protects all beings. One who masters himself, in this particular case, herself, masters the ability to navigate the waters of the pair of opposites with such an expertise that she makes it a point to lead a life manifesting only the bond, the glue, that's the nature of God. Knowing that God is love, she naturally expresses that love in the amount of care for others without discrimination and distinction. When asked how she could love everyone equally, she replied, I am their mother. If a mother doesn't care for her children, who else will? She saw everyone as her own, regardless of their faults, declaring, I am the mother of the wicked and the mother of the virtuous. Never fear. Whenever you are in distress, just say to yourself, I have a mother. I can't contain myself when one draws near me and calls me mother. I cannot refuse anyone who calls on me as mother. Here she emphasizes her boundless compassion as she considered everyone her child, virtuous or wicked, offering solace and grace to all who sought her. Her life exemplifies that true spirituality is not withdrawal from the world, but loving engagement with it, seeing God in every face and serving every need as worship. True compassion is not emotional reactivity, but intelligent love rooted in understanding. As I said before, she literally exuded compassion. That was her mom. I will support her realization, her life, her experiences with the scriptures. Just give me one moment. A college student used to visit the mother's place quite frequently. One day, while taking leave of her, he suddenly said, Mother, I am not good for this place, meaning for you. I am unfit to come to you. I am saying goodbye forever. He quickly left the house. Mother ran after him, caught his shirt, and pulling him towards her, she put her hands on his shoulder. Looking at him eye to eye, she said in a firm voice, whenever any disturbing thought comes to your mind, think of me. Don't worry. With those words, she let him go. While going home, the boy repeated mother's words over and over again. Think of me, think of me, think of me. He couldn't forget those two beautiful, compassionate eyes of the mother. Constantly he thought of those eyes of the mother and those words, think of me. Now you have to understand, this woman was considered a saintly woman. You have to understand the context. She ran after this boy, grabbed him from his shirt, slapped his face, and said, whenever you have a disturbing thought, simply just think of me. What a beautiful, beautiful teaching. I tell you one thing, Holy Mothers. These are one. I'm going to share with you just a few of the many, many of her sayings. I tell you one thing, if you want peace, do not find fault with others. If you want peace, this is a very famous saying of Sri Saradadevi. Do not find fault with others. Rather, see your own faults. Learn to make the world your own. No one is a stranger, my child. The whole world is your own. To err is human. One must not take that into account. It is harmful for oneself. One gets into the habit of finding fault. Do not look for faults in others, or your own eyes will become faulty. The cat, following its own nature, often stole food, and the mother would remark, to steal is its dharma, meaning the cat doesn't know anything better or else. The cat wants food, period. So she said, to steal is its dharma, meaning its duty. Who is there always to feed it lovingly? She exclaimed this. One day, a monastic attendant treated the cat roughly and rudely. He actually kicked the cat. The mother looked very sad. She said to the monk, scold the cat, but do not beat it. Please, feed it regularly and see that it does not go any other house to steal food. Do not beat the cat. I dwell inside the cat too. I share this with you on purpose. I know it may sound a little extreme to some of you, but to say, I dwell in that cat too, it means a lot. It is a very deep meaning in this statement. Holy Mother Sri Saradadevi was the living Upanishads, the last word of the scriptures. In Advaita Vedanta, the ultimate knowledge is the recognition, Aham Brahma Asmi, I am that ultimate reality, which we call Brahman. Yet, this knowledge, when authentic, does not lead to withdrawal or indifference from the world. Knowledge without compassion is dry Vedanta, Vivekananda used to say. true jnani, the true knower of the truth, dissolves the illusion of separateness, revealing the same self, capital self, in all beings. And from that vision, compassion flows spontaneously. Do you see it? The true knower dissolves the illusion of separateness, revealing the same self in all beings. And from that vision, compassion flows spontaneously. The secret here is to have that vision. That the same self that is in me is in all of us. With her eyes rooted in the only truth, she could relate to everyone from that truth. She had developed a mind, the evenness of the mind. In Vedanta, we talk about what we call liberation as the ultimate goal of life. But liberation is not, goodbye everybody. See you when I see you. Is the assimilation of this knowledge. Assimilation. To turn this knowledge that myself is in every one of us and in all living beings and in everything, that assimilation is what we call knowledge. The knowledge that we are surrounded by what we call God needs to be assimilated. If the words of what we call Shastra, the scriptures, are understood properly, the whole vision reduces itself to Sat Chit Ananda, existence absolute, awareness absolute, and bliss absolute all around us. If these words of the scriptures are understood properly, the whole vision, meaning everything you perceive, is nothing but consciousness, a living presence. The one who knows this knows the truth. To know something, you must see it as it is. This was Holy Mother. We say that if you superimpose the Lord, if you superimpose the idea of the self, of that ultimate reality, Brahman, which is also called Atman, on a particular form, you superimpose your idea of the divine, the ultimate reality, on a specific form. It is for the purpose of worship. That's what we do all the time. When we worship Jesus, when we as an image of the cross, when we worship any Hindu god or goddess, or anything that we understand to represent what we call God. Is it true? Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says, only the knower reaches me because his Atma, his self, is myself. He has merged in my consciousness. I know this sounds a little extreme, but I need you to understand this because this was the state of Holy Mother's mind. May not be ours, but it was hers. So to understand Holy Mother, we need to understand this. Krishna says, the one who seeks me, who thinks of me at the end of his life, gains me, reaches me. we happen to be discussing this very topic on Wednesdays. We are working on chapter number 8. And in verse number 7, we haven't seen it yet. The Lord said, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmaram yudhyacha. Mair pidamano buddhihi mam eva eshyasya samshayah. Therefore, at all times, constantly, remembering me, at all times. This is an instruction to Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield. He said, fight. Arjuna is us. And when we hear fight, it's a way to live. To constantly remember him. To constantly make that connection. To have a relationship with God. Constantly, at all times. No matter what. With the mind and intellect absorbed in me, you shall, no doubt, come to me. With the mind and intellect. Therefore, remember me at all times. Being one whose mind and intellect are offered to me, you will reach me alone. Of this, there is no doubt. Now, this teaching is repeated again and again. Many times in these 700 verses, we call the Bhagavad Gita the Son of God, which is la crème de la crème of the Upanishads. In chapter number 12, verse number 8, we hear Mayeva mana adatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya nivashisyasi mayeva atapurdham na samshaya. Fix your mind on me only. Fix your mind on me only. Place thy intellect, your intellect, in me. Then you shall no doubt live in me. Even hereafter. Guess who practiced this? Who took it to heart? Who made this commitment? You guessed it. Holy Mother made this a point to practice. What did she do? If you superimpose the Lord, the idea of God, the ultimate reality, on a particular form, it is for the purpose of worship. That's what we do. Where did she superimpose the Lord? Where did she superimpose the Lord? I ask you. I will answer for you. She superimposed the Lord. She projected that idea of God not just in a symbol, a stone, or a picture, but in the Atman, the self in all beings. Meaning, by seeing a human body, she could see a temple of God. That's why she became who she became. Do we practice that? Let that bounce in your mind. Because if we do, inevitably, magic will happen to us. That way, she was constantly interacting with God in everything. In this mantra, in this verse, it is said, Mayi arpita mano buddhihi, the one whose mind and intellect are offered to me. Constantly remembering him. That was her practice. Now, how do you offer your mind and intellect to the Lord? There is something we call sankalpa. You make a resolution. You are determined. I'm doing this. That's what you do when you want something in life, don't you? You make a determination. I want this and I will work for this. Well, that's what you have to do in order to experience what she experienced. A resolution. This is to be done. And it's called Ishvara Sankalpa. You make a resolution to remember the Lord. Make it a point. You make a commitment to see the Lord, even when you don't see it. When you don't seem to see it, you see the world, you see bodies, genders, different people. We have to see the self. The manas, the mind, stands for Sankalpa Shakti, that power of resolution. The moment that you, with your buddhi, with your intellect, make a determination to practice this, the mind obeys. But you have to practice. Then there is no conflict. Such a person is in no conflict. There is antakarana shuddhi. The mind suddenly is clear. If we practice this, it might take less time. It might take less time for us to experience what we call purnatvam, or fulfillment within ourselves. Yes, Mother's compassion was rooted in the knowledge, seeing the same self in the saint and in the sinner. While knowledge reveals the non-dual nature of the self, that's what we say, compassion manifests that truth in these phenomena. True knowledge, self-knowledge, inevitably expresses as boundless, selfless compassion. In Advaita Vedanta, the culmination of the spiritual goal is not merely an intellectual understanding about this, but the embodiment of that wisdom. As I always say, we have to see it in the field. Everybody must see it. It's not just intellectual blah, blah, blah. You have to show it to me. This knowledge transforms one's entire being. Transforms one's entire being. And this, my friends, was the case of Holy Mother, who became a saint. Not that she was declared a saint by a Catholic Church, but we could see her. We could see her in practice, her life. So, we have 10 minutes. the Bhagavad Gita in chapter number 2, there is this concept of Stita Prajna, the man or the person of a steady wisdom. And here is a depiction of Holy Mother. True wisdom manifest in freedom within engagement. Self-knowledge is not just experience, but firm recognition. I am the self, ever-free consciousness. When ignorance, the ignorance of this is finally removed, the mind no longer projects into the self limited ideas. So in verse number 54, chapter number 2, Arjuna has this question, "Oh Lord, what is the description of a person of a steady wisdom, merged in divine consciousness? How does an enlightened being talk? How does he or she sit? How does she sit? How does he walk?" Arjuna is asking, what is the state of the mind of the man of realization, and how is its influence shown in his conduct? The answer lies not in imitation, but in the organic expression of inner freedom. This wise person does not suppress emotions or desires through the willpower. Instead, desires, what we hunger in life, lose their binding power because he knows, I am already complete. All that I want is within me. I am complete. Nothing in the world can add or subtract anything from me. They know. Therefore, it's not that they don't have desires. It's that their relationship with these so-called desires, they are not slaves of them. These so-called desires don't bind them. Stita Prajna, free from craving, from these raga and dvesha, likes and dislikes, it's not that they are free, but they don't no longer disturb them because of their inner fullness. Is it clear? The wise person feels joy and sorrow, but is not defined by them. The next verse, we find the Lord said to Arjuna's question, when one discards all selfish desires, in other words, binding desires, those desires that we cling so much and we become obsessed, and when they don't get fulfilled, we get frustrated and fall into a loop of misery. When one discards all selfish desires and cravings of the senses that torment the mind, one becomes satisfied in the realization of the self. One becomes satisfied in the realization of the self, inner self. Such a person is said to be transcendentally situated. He sits there and lives in this world. satisfied in the self, capital self, alone by the self. The jnani, the knower, is not devoid of thoughts, but no longer seeks fulfillment from external objects. That is the difference. What do we do? Oh, I want this, I want that. Oh, I need to feel good, so let me get this. Oh, I need to be with somebody. We grow obsessed to feel fulfilled. This person is done. Desires may arise, but they don't create dependency or agitation, because they know. One whose mind remains undisturbed amidst misery, who does not crave for pleasure, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of a steady wisdom. You must be thinking, well, this is definitely not for me. But it is, because this is the only way to live in this world. To live peacefully and to stay happy all the time. Otherwise, you know very well, you can't be. If you cling to sense objects for your happiness and fulfillment, there is nothing wrong. But you've had enough experience already. So as we say, we have to grow up. Okay? One who is able to withdraw the senses from their objects, just as a tortoise withdraws its limbs into its shell, is established in divine wisdom. Is it clear? But this happens naturally, huh? It's not that you try to control this. No. This happens naturally. How? Well, when you withdraw your mind and make that commitment to remember the Lord, to remember the truth, to make connections, to have a relationship with your inner self. When you discover that sweetness, all these relationships that we have with the external world will drop. Not that you will stop caring about your husband or wife, but you won't expect or cling to them for happiness. All is required is a life of commitment. This is the example that Holy Mother gives us. It's a state of mind. The highest mark of wisdom is sahaja, naturalness. The jnani, the knower of the truth, does not act like a sage. He or she is without pretense, performance, or spiritual identity. The wise person is not beyond humanity. He or she is fully human. Don't be confused. Don't have ideas in your mind. This person is fully human. That's what we see in Sri Saradadevi's life. That's what she became. Again, the Sthita Prajna. A woman of steady wisdom. Sounds good, huh? He or she is proof that liberation, what we call liberation, is not a mystical or an earthy state. It is the natural state of the one who knows Aham Brahmasmi. I am that Brahman, that self. We can see these, all these verses that appear in the Bhagavad Gita, which we call the latest Upanishad, again, the last word of the scriptures, in the life of Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi. She was the compassionate goddess on earth. People couldn't resist being drawn to her. You can read this in her life and teachings, in all the reminiscences from many of her disciples. If you want inspiration in your spiritual life, I strongly recommend to read her life and teachings. We don't speak a lot about her. We don't talk much about her. But you can learn a lot from her. The wonderful practical example of Advaita Vedanta. How did she get there? Well, as I said before, I guess being close to Sri Ramakrishna, she had an advantage. We had to, we know that that helps a lot. Do you have another 2 more minutes? I'd like to read something to you. This is coming from her. We have a little record of the Master's spiritual instructions. We have very little record of the Master, Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual instructions to her and the way in which he imparted these instructions to her. The Holy Mother seldom spoke on this subject to others, but we know for certain that the Master's, Sri Ramakrishna's teachings had a tremendous effect on her pure mind. To a disciple, she gave a glimpse of her inner life in the following words. During my days at Dakshineshwar, that was where she was living, I used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and sit for meditation. I know this is too much, I'm not asking you to do the same. Maybe 5, 6 a.m. before sunrise. I used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and sit for meditation. Often, I used to be totally absorbed in it. Once in the moonlight, I was performing japam, sitting near the steps of the Nahabad, that is the banks of, and also that Nahabad is where she was, her room, you can say. Everything was quiet. I did not even know when the Master passed that way. Sri Ramakrishna was living in another room, and he used to go to the bathroom, and in order to do that, he had to pass. On other days, I would hear the sounds of his sleepers, but on this particular night, I did not. I was totally absorbed in meditation. In those days, I looked different. I used to put on ornaments and had a cloth with red border. On this day, the cloth had slipped off from my back owing to the breeze, but I wasn't conscious of it. Now, you have to understand, people used to be a little prude in those days, particularly in Indian context. So a woman couldn't be seen like that. And she was feeling bad about it. It seems that Swami Yogeshananda, Swami Yogananda, went that way to give the water jug to the Master to help Sri Ramakrishna, and saw me in that condition. The ecstasy of those days. On moonlight nights, I would look at the moon and pray with folded hands, "May my heart be as pure as the rays of the yonder moon." O Lord, there is stain even in the moon, but let there not be at least trace of a stain in my mind. That was her prayer. If one is studying meditation, one will clearly see the Lord in one's heart and hear His voice. The moment an idea flashes in the mind of such a one, it will be fulfilled then and there. It will be bathed in peace. What a mind I had at that time, she said. Brinde, the maidservant, one day dropped a metal plate in front of me with a bang. The sound penetrated my heart, she said. In the fullness of one's spiritual realization, one will find that he who resides in one's heart resides in the heart of others as well. The oppressed, the persecuted, the untouchable, and the outcast. This realization makes one truly humble. That works. In the fullness of one's spiritual realization, one will find that he who resides in one's heart resides in the hearts of others as well. The oppressed, the persecuted, the untouchable, and the outcast. The secret of compassion is the secret of God. God is compassion. He does not merely feel sorry for us. He enters into our condition, becomes one of us, suffers with us, and in us. I hope now you can understand this saying from Thomas Merton. The man of compassion is the man who has discovered his true self in God. He no longer sees others as strangers or enemies, but as fellow manifestations of the divine mercy. The whole idea of compassion is therefore based on a keen awareness of the interdependence of all these living beings, which are all part of one another and all involved in one another. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, that outer world is Purna, full of divine consciousness. This inner world is also Purna, full of divine consciousness. From Purna comes Purna. From the fullness of divine consciousness, the world is manifested. Taking Purna from Purna, Purna indeed remains, because divine consciousness is non-dual and infinite. Om, peace, peace.